Am I looking straight into the camera or am I talking to you? I'll just look at you. That's so weird. So, no, you're good. I'll just talk to you.
Wait, look at me. Let me see how it looks. Look at the camera. Yeah, look at the camera.
Look at the camera?
Look at the camera.
Are you serious? Oh my god.
So today with me I have
Travis LaValle. I'm a recruiting analyst at Rice Football.
And how long have you been a recruiting analyst at Rice?
At Rice, I've been a recruiting analyst for the past 6 months, around there since April, and I worked at University of Houston for 2 years as a recruiting analyst, or player personnel assistant.
Okay, so what was the biggest change you noticed culture-wise between UH and Rice University?
Culture-wise, I say the community feel is much higher at Rice than it was at University of Houston, as far as the camaraderie and communication between staff and between recruiting staff and coaches. Because like when talking about recruiting or area or prospect that we're going after, at Houston it was very fragmented, and I just felt that at Rice everybody was in the loop, and that I was able to have my opinion heard from each position coach that was going to evaluate the student athlete, instead of at Houston where I just kind of float an idea out there, and then maybe it would get heard if my boss would bring it up to one of the recruiting coaches or not. So from the recruiting standpoint, that would definitely be, or from my job standpoint, that'd definitely be the biggest culture change.
Okay. What is the difference between a recruiting analyst and being a personnel assistant?
So player personnel assistant at Houston, my focus was more about roster management and helping out coaches, because it wasn't my job to talk directly to the athletes. I was more focused on assisting them as much as I could as far as their communication and evaluation of their own prospects. But at Rice, as a recruiting analyst, I'm able to communicate with their recruits. I'm able to do my own evaluations and submit to the coaches, and kind of at least assist or guide them in some of the places they need to be looking at, or some of the student athletes that they need to be looking at for the most recent recruiting class and for the next recruiting class as well.
Okay. What made you become so invested in football, specifically?
Specifically this job, it's kind of funny, but I've always loved football, but when I was a kid, I had the video game NCAA football on my PS3 and Xbox, and there was always a section in the franchise mode where you could recruit players and build your own team. That's like you played season on, and it was really cool for me to kind of recruit like these like fake players in the video game and build my own team up, because I had the decisions to, take this guy over this guy and have my own preferences as far as who would best fit the team I was trying to make. If I was trying to make like a strong running team, you'd recruit O-linemen more. You try to recruit an air raid offense, you recruit slot receivers more. So it was kind of that at first, and then when I saw there was an internship posting my freshman year at University of Houston, I was really intrigued by it, and I knew I wanted to get involved as much as I could, as soon as I could too.
Awesome. How do you think racism is still incorporated in sports today, and have you personally noticed it?
I think both at the collegiate level and the professional level, racism is prevalent, whether it be from commentators like slipping in a remark or kind of gender stereotyping an athlete, to certain coaches or different recruiting directors being told which players to recruit or which players to not recruit. I think it's still prevalent, especially at the college level. Professional, not as much, at least from my opinion. From what I've seen, but there's definitely been times where athletic ability has been questioned by the color of their skin. Just like recently, like 3 years ago, when Christian McCaffrey got drafted by the Panthers, he was the highest rated running back as far as athleticism goes and all his measurables, but teams were questioning to take him, and some of like Stephen A. Smith and Max Kellerman, who are ESPN research analysts and they do their own show, they were talking about it, and they were showing, if he was a black running back, he would have been drafted, one or two, or we wouldn't even be questioning the discussion of his athletic ability or durability. But since he was a white running back, there's supposedly more risk, and at that point, from an athletic standpoint, you're discussing measurables and trying to see how he impacts her team. You know, the color of his skin doesn't impact the team, and college football you see that too as far as questioning athletic ability. If you had a white receiver, a black receiver, you know, would a certain coach be like, oh, let's take the black receiver just because, you know, so historically a majority of receivers have been African American in college football, but I think it's definitely prevalent, but it needs to be looked at. Each athlete needs to be looked at in a holistic, you know, manner.
I really like that. Do you believe one athlete can make a change towards the racism issues?
Definitely. I mean, you see star athletes in professional sports all the time as far as making a statement towards race or towards. I mean, you've seen it most recently with like Colin Kaepernick with the whole kneeling at the national anthem. At the collegiate level, I think it's more difficult because they're, you know, under a team and they're under a coach, and there's certain stipulations that they can't speak out or protest against because that's part of the contract that they sign once they become a college NCAA athlete with that institution. But no doubt at the professional level, players have great pull. I mean, we see it from LeBron James and especially Serena Williams. I mean, hers was from more of a gender viewpoint, but I mean, she's an African American women tennis player, and she's arguably the best female athlete of all time, and she's still scrutinized because of either her gender or race. So, and she stands up for it and talks about it and speaks out about it. So I definitely think, you know, there are plenty of athletes that stand up and do it, and hopefully it becomes a bigger movement moving forward with not just the star athletes, but with more of a, you know, unified front.
How do you define gender equality, since you were talking about it, and do you believe it has gotten better or worse for women? And if so, how do we improve it?
Gender equality, I'd say it's easier. Well, I define it as both female and male athletes being treated the same as far as when it comes to benefits and pay is a tricky thing. In college, it's easy. It's a little bit easier because you have the introduction of Title IX in 1972, which stipulated equal treatment if you're going to an institution that received federal funding. But at the professional level, it's a little bit more difficult because you have, you know, money coming in, and based off that money coming in is, you know, that's the way they get paid and that's the way it gets distributed. But at the collegiate level, it's a lot easier to attain. Can you repeat the question one more time too?
Yes, for sure. How would you define gender equality, and do you believe it has gotten better for women? And if so, where does it still need improvement?
Where it's gotten better for women, I think, on the professional level is definitely in America at least, female athletes have become a lot more prominent, which can be accredited to both their success and also to societal / cultural movements as far as the Me Too movement and a myriad of other movements that you see going nationwide. But yeah.
Do you believe it needs improvement, or?
At the collegiate level, I think it's hard to enforce a change because you have the stipulations or that Title IX in place, but it definitely needs improvement at the professional level, because if a female athlete really isn't successful at the professional level, she's still, going to get scrutinized and still going to be treated unequally as far as their benefits or their media coverage or the pay and stuff like that are concerned. But it definitely needs improvement at the professional level.
So with that being said, our society has gotten a lot better at dealing with gender equality. Why do you think our society is becoming more aware of the issue?
I think because honestly it's just there's more of an emphasis about treating people equally, if that makes sense, as far as like outside of the sports world, because I think the sports world is kind of a microcosm of what our society looks like. And as female athletes get more popular, and as they continue to get, or as they hopefully in the future continue to get more media coverage, I think they'll be started to treat equally. And because you're seeing, at least from my opinion, I think they're better, there's more of a movement and more people talking about, treating women and men equally in every industry, in every field. And if that can be applied to the sports industry, the professional sports industry, that would be, really great to see, obviously.
So you spoke about Title IX earlier. Do you personally believe that Title IX allows for equal opportunities between the genders?
I think it's a difficult subject to broach as far as that's concerned. As far as I'm concerned, at least, just because I don't know as far as how the other collegiate sports are funded. Obviously, I know major men's sports like football and basketball get funded the most, or get the most boosters, or have the most boosters, or specified donors. Repeat the question one more time.
Yeah. Do you personally believe that Title IX allows equal opportunities between genders?
But as far as opportunities go, to play collegiate athletics, I think Title IX has done a good job about that, because one of the, three prongs that it has in its title, or in its one of its clauses, is that there's an equal number of men's and women's sports. So as far as opportunities to play, at least they're not, at least the number of sports that are being, given to play isn't being diminished or, taken down just because they're not as popular as, say, college football. I definitely think that the opportunities are equal.
Perfect. Thank you so much for your time.